Okay, now that you know where and how to tap, let's talk about why. And since our goal in EFT is to release the clutter of negative emotions, it must somehow affect the emotional centers of the brain. Neuroscience has discovered a great deal about the structures in the brain that relate to our emotional states. In anger and fear, perhaps two of our strongest negative emotions, are intimately associated with an area of the brain called the amygdala. But the amygdala doesn't just sit there in isolation. It's connected in a complex pattern with many other areas of the brain and the body. And while there's no final answer nor even a strong certainty about exactly how EFT works, let's touch briefly upon a couple of research projects that have produced extremely interesting findings that just may relate to the final answer. Dr. Fritz Albert Popp at the International Institute of Biophysics in Germany has for many years been doing research on biophotons, particles of light, photons that the body emits. That's right, the body creates light, very, very small amounts, and it takes very sensitive and sophisticated instruments in extremely dark chambers to detect it. But what I find of particular interest is when the acupuncture points are stimulated, the meridians generate light along the channels that match those found in the ancient texts of Chinese medicine. The meridians and corresponding acupuncture points also exhibit other physical characteristics, such as less electrical resistance, enhanced ultrasound attenuation, and the conduction of light, infrared, and microwaves. Next is the work of Dr. Helene Langevin at the University of Vermont School of Medicine. From her work and others, we have learned that fascia, the connective tissue that forms a body-wide network enfolding every organ and tissue in the body, is capable of generating electricity through the piezoelectric effect. And that means when you stress the fascia, it can release electricity. If you've ever turned on a light switch, you know that electricity can create light. Biophotons, anyone? And many of the intersections of these fascial planes, strangely enough, correspond to traditional acupuncture points. As I've said before, we're a long way from fully understanding why EFT works. Case in point, look at aspirin. It's been used by humans as early as 4,000 years ago in Egypt in the form of willow extracts. It wasn't until the early 1970s that the actual mechanisms of why it worked were discovered. But we do know that EFT does work, somehow, and it's not too much of a stretch to wonder if these findings, or two main streams of research I just mentioned, might one day provide a deeper insight and understanding of how and why EFT is so darn effective. But there's even more of interest to add to this mix. Early in the 1970s, the late Dr. Candace Pert, a neuropharmacologist researching at the National Institutes of Health, started a revolution in neuroscience by discovering the long-sought opiate receptor in the brain. This in turn led to the discovery of endorphins and a whole host of other proteins created by the body called neuropeptides. And these peptide molecules alter mood and behavior. And that in turn led to the discovery that receptors for these molecules are located throughout the body. And these molecules and the receptors thus join the brain, glands, immune system in a network of communication between brain and body, probably representing the biochemical substrate of emotion. Dr. Pert's book, Molecules of Emotion, is a good step in understanding the importance of this. Dr. Pert famously stated that your body is your subconscious mind. Our physical body can be changed by the emotions we experience. And to further quote Dr. Pert, a feeling sparked in our mind or our body will translate as a peptide being released somewhere. Organs, tissues, skin, muscles, and endocrine glands, they all have peptide receptors on them, and they can access and store emotional information. This means the emotional memory is stored in many places in the body. Emotions affect our physiology, and trapped negative emotions affect us in negative ways. Perhaps that's why when tapping, there's a physical indication that there's been a change or a shift in the way you're feeling about a memory that's called a physical relaxation response.